How are you? I hope you're doing well. This is the story that keeps on storying or whatever. But Dave Chappelle has given, I think, a final response to the community that is very upset about him over his comedy special that was released on Netflix recently, The Closer. And if you've been living under a rock, the reason I'm doing another video about this is because he said something very, very interesting. I like what he said, and I think for a minute there, I was thinking that he was going to bend the knee to the mob, but that is in fact not what he's doing. And we'll get into that in just a second, but just a quick update. Again, for those in the back, for those who have been under a rock, this comedy special was released, and he upset a certain community to the point where people were storming meetings, staging walkouts, even trying to boycott, trying to cancel. At the Netflix headquarters, it caused the CEO to release a statement saying, hey, we're sorry if people got offended, but we support our comedians and their creative freedom. And, we also have content on our platform that is violent, that doesn't make people go out and commit violence. This is a comedian who's telling jokes, blah, blah, blah. People were still upset and angry about it. And the CEO actually ended up bending the knee. He apologized. But people were still upset. And some of the transgender folk planned to protest outside of the Netflix headquarters. And the interesting thing about this protest was, one of the interesting things that happened in this protest is that they were protesting against, saying that Dave Chappelle's words were hate and they were violent. His words were violence is what they were saying. And words are not violence unless you are actually threatening someone. You are threatening actual violence. In that case, that is illegal. And I guess that could be violence. But when you are just making jokes and not calling for anyone to get hurt or harmed, that is not violence. Sorry, I had to interject because I forgot to make this point, and I think this is a really good point. The reason why it is so dangerous, this place that we're getting at now, where we have people that are labeling basically anything, any idea that they do not agree with, an idea that merely offends them as violence. The reason that is so dangerous is because once you label that thing as violent, when it is in fact not, when it is not intended to cause physical harm, or when it does not cause physical harm, when you do that, you all of a sudden now are justifying a violent reaction. And we see that with Antifa. Their violence is justified because they think that any idea that does not go in line with their ideas, they deem that as violence. Therefore, their violent behavior is justified. And that is a very dangerous road to go on. And the interesting thing about this protest is there was a counter protester there, at least one that I am aware of that I watched the video of, and this person had a sign that said, I think Dave Chappelle is funny, and he's actually a comedian as well, and that's all his sign said. And he was in the crowd saying, I love Dave Chappelle, I love Dave Chappelle, and people began coming after him, ripping his sign and throwing it on the ground. And he wasn't doing anything harmful. He was totally peaceful, just showing his support for Dave Chappelle, not saying anything. And he was attacked. And the funny thing was about this video is it went viral. They tore his sign down and just left him with just a stick. And then the same people that tore his sign down then said, because he was left with just a stick, then said, he had a weapon. He has a weapon. He has a weapon. It's insanity. And then one person was banging a tambourine saying, repent, repent, repent in his face. And you guys, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Anyway, so lots of shenanigans ensued because of this comedy special. And Dave Chappelle, since then, and what typically happens with these mobs is it's not the opinions of the majority of people. It's the opinion of a very small minority of people who happens to be very, very loud, which is the case with the group that is boycotting, that wants to cancel, and all of that business. So Dave Chappelle, since then, and proof of that is Dave Chappelle has been on tour. His shows have been sold out everywhere he goes. He's had a lot of support. If you look at the audience versus critic ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, the people have spoken. It's one of the number one trending shows on, or trending specials on Netflix even still. So it's very clear that this is not the opinion of the majority, and Dave Chappelle gets into that in his response. So I'll give you his response that he gave out last night. If you want to watch the video, go to his Instagram and watch the video. I will tell you a little bit of what he says. But it says, he says in this video, he says he declared that he will not be bending to anyone's demands. And he said, to the community, I am more than willing to give you an audience, but you will not summon me. I am not bending to anyone's demands. He then said, it's been said in the press that I was invited to speak to the employees at Netflix who were upset, and I refused. That's not true, he said. If they had invited me, I would have accepted it, although I am confused about what we would be speaking about. I said what I said, and boy, I heard what you said. My God, how could I not? You said you want a safe working environment at Netflix. Seems like I'm the only one that can't go to the office anymore. How ironic. Almost like the guy with the sign who wasn't doing anything, and he was the one that was... Anywho, he says, and if you want to meet with me, I am more than willing to, but I have some conditions. First of all, you cannot come if you have not watched my special from beginning to end. You must come to a place of my choosing at a time of my choosing. And thirdly, you must admit that Hannah Gadsby is not funny. Hannah Gadsby, she is a comedian as well. She had a special out a while ago that some people thought was not funny. But the thing about Hannah Gadsby, you know, she had a special and she called out certain groups and was making fun of certain groups of people, and they said, I don't think it's funny. But nobody got mad, nobody protested, nobody tried to cancel her for having... I didn't agree with almost a lot of what... Actually, there were some parts in there that was funny. There were a few parts in there that I thought was funny. But she said a lot of things that I don't agree with, but a lot of things that a lot of people don't agree with, but I don't remember anyone trying to cancel her, trying to boycott her, protesting. She's allowed to have that space and say what she wants to say, and if I don't want to watch it, I'm not going to watch it. Boom. There we go. And I'm going to give an argument for telling jokes about people. Okay. So he goes on to say, and this is the part that I thought was very interesting. The media frames it that it's me versus that community, and that's not what it is. Do not blame the LGBTQ plus community for any of this crap. This has nothing to do with them. It's about corporate interests and what I can say and what I cannot say. For the record, and I need you to know this, everyone I know from that community has been loving and supporting. So I don't know what all this nonsense is about. Bravo. I totally agree with that. And again, it's what I said at the very beginning of this video. This is a very loud minority of people. The majority of people think that what he said was fine, including... This is not the community as a whole that's speaking. Obviously, I can't speak for anyone, but there are many people in that community that came out and supported Dave Chappelle. And let me just give you my 2 cents. So, I'm staying in Virginia right now. Where I live most of the time is in West Hollywood. I live 2 blocks away. Well, where I did live. I don't live there anymore. Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you where I live. But where I lived for a very long time was 2 blocks away from the Comedy Store. It's one of the most infamous comedy places in all of the U.S. Tons of people perform there, including Dave Chappelle. I've seen Dave Chappelle there several times. He was infamous for coming in and doing late night drop-ins. He makes fun of everybody. Everybody. The people in the audience, himself, me, my friend, everybody. I would go to the Comedy Store all the time. One of my favorite shows there was called Kill Tony. Unfortunately, they moved. They live in Texas now, so they're not there anymore. But Kill Tony is sort of a roast style show. So the premise of Kill Tony, it's a live stream, and they do it live there. You can listen to it or you can watch it on YouTube. They would stream it live, and it's a panel of comedians, and they have one famous comedian on each week, and then they have a band. It was the best damn band in the land, and every week the band would dress up as different characters. They would be like milkmen, they would be angry feminists, they would just always different characters, and they would do the whole show in full character. And then young up-and-coming comedians could sign up ahead of the show. They would put names into a bucket, and the show would go on for, I believe, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3, I can't remember, but it would go on for a while. And they would pull names out of the bucket, and if your name is pulled, you go on stage. You get 1 minute of uninterrupted time where you can do a stand-up set, and then they would basically roast you and give you feedback. And there were people of all shapes and sizes, all socioeconomic backgrounds, all gender identities, all races would be involved in that show, and they made fun of everyone. And that's people say that comedy is dead, comedy is so PC. Not all of it. You just have to know where to find it. And it's not always on the mainstream. They made fun of everyone, and there was actually an individual who was on the show regularly who was transgender. People that identified as everything, and they made fun of that person, and that person made fun of them back. That is the spirit of comedy. When you are made fun of by a comedian, they're basically saying, I like you, you're in the club. They make fun of each other. They roast each other all the time. There's that show on Comedy Central called The Roast. There's a show still, I think it's still at the Comedy Store that I would go to, called The Roast, where you roast each other. But everyone is friends at the end of the day. Everyone knows that it's all out of love. If you're that one person that says, you can't make fun of me, blah, 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 then you're basically saying, like, I don't want to be in your club. And they're like, okay, we're not inviting you to the party because you're no fun. We want to be around people that don't get offended by everything. And by the way, going through life getting offended by everything and not being able to laugh at yourself is a miserable way to live. It's not a good way to live. Trust me. I have been where I've had times in my life where I was insecure, and if someone made fun of me, I would take offense to it. And now I'm like, you can say whatever. I don't care. I'm secure in my own skin. Say whatever you want. It doesn't hurt me. You know, if it's mean-spirited, that's on you, not on me. And if you're making fun of me because we're friends, make fun of me. That's, you know, and Dave Chappelle has said it before. If I'm making fun of you, that means that I see myself in you. I love you. If you really think down on someone and you're a comedian, you're typically not going to make fun of people that you really think that are less than you. And Dave Chappelle is not the type of person that pokes down. He goes across. He does not go down. And many people in that community have come out and supported him. And many people in that community are comedians themselves and know how to dish it out, and they know how to take it. That's what you do. You kill creativity if you can't be free with what you're saying. And that who you can't make fun of has the power over you. That's no fun. That's not good. Even Joe Rogan came out himself, which is another person who used to frequent the Comedy Store a lot too. Anywho, I've been very ranty today, but I really wanted to make a video about this because I really do like what he said, that they do not speak for the whole community, and I think that's true. They don't. Just because a few people are mad within that community and a few publications are mad within that community does not mean that they speak for the entire community. There are many people that come up and support Dave Chappelle. And I think the reason why a lot of these corporations cave so easily is because a lot of these corporations are run by older, rich men or women that really aren't in these communities. So when these people scream and yell and cry and demand, because they're not down here with us, they're, you know, where they are separated in their office on their ivory tower, they think that this is everyone in those communities. And I think that's why they cave so easily, even though the majority of the people do not agree with this small group, is because this is the group that's loud. This is the group that's yelling, and in their mind, they're like, oh my gosh, this must be the entire community. I need to cave to the mob. And I think that's why so many people cave to the mob. If that's all you're seeing on Twitter, or that's all you're seeing in the news, you are going to think that is what the entire community thinks. And I don't think that's true. And I'm glad that Dave Chappelle said this and that he's standing his ground. I don't think that what he said was phobic by any means. I don't think it was intended to be. I think that people missed the point of that whole entire special, and they just pulled out what they wanted to be outraged over. And that's the problem, I think, with our society right now. We're always looking for an injustice. We're always looking for a grievance. We're always looking for something to be outraged about. Anyway, let me know what you all think, and have a very happy Tuesday. Bye.